I would say prime virtue was that he was kind and that he showed up for people. He showed up for everyone, and he didn't care if you were a waiter or a busboy or a movie star, and I hated that.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Thanks for coming back to my channel. Today, I want to talk about something that I can say with certainty without worrying about being accused of spreading lies. These days, even if you share facts, people can still claim it's slander just because they don't like what's being said. That's exactly what Meta told Stephanie Jones when she tried to force them to give up the names of people behind a Facebook page that called out her lies. Meta basically told her that unless she could prove something posted was truly harmful and untrue, she couldn't get that information. That's because what was posted is protected under the First Amendment. There are some people like Blake and Brian Reynolds who continue to spread false stories and push their own public agenda. That agenda came up in court recently. I told you all before that the reign of fear and intimidation is finally ending. It really is. Some people thought I was exaggerating, but if you've followed this case, you know how creators like me have been dragged into this for months. I've gotten legal threats, others have been served subpoenas, and some content creators were attacked publicly without ever being legally involved. Now, a judge has stepped in and said all subpoenaed documents must be handed in by July 25th. That means no new subpoenas can be issued after that date. For creators like myself, that's a huge relief. Even Perez Hilton may not have to worry anymore if he hasn't already been served. The people behind this case also accused Brian Friedman, an attorney, of unethical behavior. They included a 300-page legal document related to a separate lawsuit involving Vin Diesel and a woman who briefly worked for him back in 2010. She filed a lawsuit years later under a new California law that gave victims of sexual assault more time to take legal action. But most of her claims about the workplace were dismissed because she didn't report them in time. The only remaining claims involve the alleged assault. Vin Diesel and his team have strongly denied the claims and say he wasn't even in California during the time she mentioned. That 300-page document was filed in an effort to support a request for court sanctions and to compel more evidence. But on the same day, Brian Friedman's team filed a response that pushed back hard. They said the request was filled with false claims meant to damage their reputation. In fact, they stated that the motion was offensive, misleading, and had no legal basis. The court was asked to deny the request because it didn't meet the requirements for an emergency motion. The judge wasn't moved by their arguments, and from what I've seen, the motion didn't go anywhere. So remember, if you're only hearing one side of the story, it's important to ask what the other side says too. We may not know every detail, but the judge clearly didn't find their claims strong enough to act on, according to a court filing from July 3rd, which Blake and Ryan's legal team had access to when they submitted their massive 300-page document. The judge had already addressed the situation involving alleged bad behavior at a deposition. In that earlier hearing, the court didn't find any of the claims believable. No money was awarded, and instead of any serious punishment, the two sides simply agreed to settle their issues. That alone raises questions. Something violent or extreme really happened? Wouldn't there be more serious action, like contacting law enforcement? But none of that took place. Instead, the judge noted that the trial, originally scheduled for August 18th, was pushed to February 2nd, 2026. Other deadlines were also extended to match the new trial schedule, including discovery cutoffs. As part of this, both sides were ordered to try mediation by November 7th. They must give the court an update on how that's going by then. Also, a planned motion to force a deposition in August 2025 was removed from the court calendar. Why? Because it's no longer necessary. Likewise, the defense's request for a protective order was also removed. Both sides had already come to an agreement. Vin Diesel's deposition is now set for September 3rd, and it will happen at his attorney's office. It's limited to 7 hours. unlike what the other side wanted, which was multiple days. Another deposition with a third party is scheduled for September 12th. They're also working together to schedule others and share records from Disney, which the defense had requested. All of this was settled, and none of it supports the idea that serious misconduct happened. The court records show no mention of unprofessional behavior from the defense. There were no warnings or punishments issued. In fact, Vin Diesel's lawyers got what they asked for the deposition at their office for safety reasons. Something Blake herself has requested in her own legal situation. If a judge agrees, these arrangements are allowed. What's frustrating about this is how one-sided the story became. In many legal battles involving people who manipulate others, this happens often. One side gets painted as the victim, while the other is accused of being unstable or dishonest. In this case, Justin doesn't seem like the type to play that game. He's not chasing fame or trying to dominate Hollywood. He seems like someone who wants to create meaningful content. He was even going to make a movie based on Pac-Man, but that project got canceled. Some think that's why Ryan Reynolds may be targeting him. It could also be tied to Scarlett Johansson, Ryan's ex-wife, who recently became one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood. She even worked on a film with Justin, and she mentioned in an interview how the timing of Ryan going after Justin was suspicious. The law firm involved has a history of representing underdogs, like when they took on Rudy Giuliani and won. But this time, seems like the roles are reversed. They're representing the powerful ones instead of those being targeted. It feels like everything has flipped. It's the legal team that once stood for truth, like when they helped the election. Workers against Rudy Giuliani now seems to be doing the exact opposite. They appear to be defending powerful figures like Blake and Ryan while aggressively going after people who seem to have less power in the situation. It made me wonder if that's why the original attorney, Marielle, stepped back from the case. She used to be very involved, but now seems to have taken a back seat. Recently, all the legal actions have been handled by Kristen Bender, who works for a major crisis management law firm called Wilkie. Kristen is known for handling high-stakes, reputation-based cases, not ones focused on sexual misconduct. The legal teams from Wilkie and Minute are massive and extremely resourceful. They represent clients who can afford to fight hard and long, often overwhelming smaller legal teams. So when you think about it, Justin is up against not just Blake, but also very powerful law firms. Despite that, Justin still manages to come across more favorably in court and public opinion. On Justin's side is Brian Friedman, who has a strong reputation for fighting for his clients publicly. He's supported by experienced attorneys like Ellen Goff, Jason Sunshine, Mitchell Schuster, and Kevin Fritz. Mitchell, for example, is known for defending top-level athletes in New York and understands how to handle media-heavy legal battles. His office would be more than capable of hosting a secure deposition if Blake's team had agreed. But instead, her attorneys went back to court and attempted to make Brian look violent, something the judge completely dismissed. There was no sanction, no punishment, and no evidence that supported their accusations. This move seemed like a clear effort to damage Brian's reputation rather than present valid legal arguments. Filing hundreds of pages filled with questionable claims does not prove wrongdoing, especially when the court rejects the motion. And when lawyers make these kinds of claims without facts, it gives the impression they're trying to sway public opinion rather than convince a judge. To me, it shows how desperate Blake's legal team is. A lot of people have asked why so many legal motions are being filed. The answer is simple. Lawyers bill by the hour. The more time they spend preparing motions, the more they get paid. When clients like Blake and Ryan don't question the cost and just want results, lawyers will file whatever they're asked to file as long as the clients approve it. And yes, clients do see and approve filings before they go to court. Might even help review or suggest edits. Lawyers can't just submit things without client approval. especially if those filings are meant to represent the client's point of view. So, in the end, a law firm is just doing what Blake and Ryan want, even if it means bending the truth. Kristen, who's in charge of managing their public image, through legal strategies, might be good at her job, but the judge didn't buy what they were selling. Now they've been caught in a lie. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell for updates. Thanks for watching, besties.